You feel it, right? That buzz, that electricity. Big sporting moments remind you that football season isn't that far away. And when you're part of the faithful, everything eventually circles back to one question. How do the San Francisco 49ers finish the job? And that brings us straight to the heartbeat of this offense, Christian McCaffrey. Let me say this clearly. What he did was historically good, not just not just Pro Bowl good, historically productive. He ranked second in the entire NFL in yards per route run among running backs. Think about that for a second. With defenses fully locked in on him, with the wide receiver room decimated, with injuries everywhere, he still produced at an elite level. And here's the part that should make you both proud and a little uneasy. He touched the ball 413 times. That's the second 400-plus touch season of his career. 430 in today's NFL. That's almost unheard of. The average NFL career barely lasts over 3 years. Most backs never sniff that kind of workload, even once. McCaffrey didn't just handle it. He carried the offense on his back. When you talk about volume like that, it puts him in rare company. It reminds you of workhorse legends, guys who built reputations on durability and toughness. That kind of usage deserves respect. It's violent, it's punishing, and it's not sustainable forever. And here's where two things can be true at the same time. Christian McCaffrey absolutely saved this offense when everything around him started falling apart, but the 49ers also leaned on him too much to realistically win it all. That's the tension. When your quarterback in Brock Purdy is a star and your running back is a star, you've got a strong foundation. But football isn't basketball. 2 stars aren't enough. You need spacing. You need threats. You need defensive coordinators losing sleep over more than just number 23. Instead, what happened? Defenses collapsed toward him. Attention tilted his way. Snap after snap, and he still finished second among running backs in yards per route run. That is absurd production considering the circumstances. So I want to ask you something directly. Do you think Christian McCaffrey can handle another 400-touch season? Be honest. Yes or no? Because if your answer is yes, you're betting on durability that most backs simply don't maintain into their 30s. And if your answer is no, then you already understand what this offseason is really about. It's not replacing Christian McCaffrey. It's protecting him. And if you're new here and you live and breathe for Niners football like this, hit that subscribe button and join the faithful. We're building something serious here, and we're pushing toward 2,000 subscribers. Every single one of you matters. Now here's where the conversation gets interesting, because some people looked at the efficiency numbers and said, he's declining. And that's where we've got to dig deeper, because the raw efficiency dip tells a story but not the one some fans think it does. And when you actually look at what was happening around him, you realize the problem wasn't Christian McCaffrey slowing down. The problem was the offense shrinking around him. And that's what we need to break down next. You saw the box score and the headline stats, and you probably noticed something that made your brain twitch. Some of the advanced metrics suggested Christian McCaffrey wasn't as elusive as in past years. Yards after contact per attempt dipped to about 2.75, down from a 3.35 mark that put him among the league's very best, and PFF's elusive rating slid as well. On paper, that looks alarming, but numbers don't live in a vacuum. They live inside an offense, and this offense was missing pieces. Here's the important thing to lock into place. Trying to isolate a running back's true performance using those metrics is useful, but it can also mislead you if you ignore context. In 2019, McCaffrey had similar yards after contact signals, yet he went 1,000, and was still elite. Why? Because context changed. In 2019, he was the primary showpiece on a struggling team, and defenses treated everything differently. In the 49ers case, the offense around him collapsed into what I call skeleton crew mode, missing the explosive receivers, missing sustained spacing, and missing the reliable secondary threats that keep linebackers honest. Spacing matters more than a lot of fans realize. When you have multiple credible vertical and intermediate threats, defenders are forced to respect the whole field. That creates creases, lanes, and fewer defenders immediately stacked on your back after first contact. In the season we're talking about, the 49ers lost weapons and they didn't consistently replace them. Tight end snaps were patchwork. Brandon Ayuk never provided the long field threat the team needed. George Kittle missed chunks, and the depth chart turned into a patchwork of veterans, reclamation projects, and young prospects. So when McCaffrey ran into contact more often, it was often because there simply wasn't room to operate, not necessarily because he'd suddenly lost his burst. You also need to factor in how Shanahan's scheme leverages a running back who is a threat in the passing game. When McCaffrey runs routes, linebackers have to account for him. That creates mismatches and hesitation, when the rest of the receiving corps can't consistently convert that attention into production. The defense can cheat to the box. That's a direct assault on yards after contact and elusive metrics. So yes, the efficiency dip is real on the stat sheet, but the underlying cause points squarely at decreased spacing and roster attrition, not at a dramatic one-season physical decline. Now, be honest with me. Do you think those metrics should worry us long-term? Or are they a one-off the 49ers fix by rebuilding spacing and adding weapons? Type CMC if you think it's on him, or type roster if you think it's on roster construction. I'll be reading the comments and highlighting the best takes. One more note before we move on. McCaffrey nearly hit the 1K mark again. That tells you something huge about his versatility and impact even when defenses keyed on him. Even in an offense missing talent, he still produced at an elite level. That's not the sign of a back-end decline so much as a back-shouldering an outsized burden. Next up, we're going to get specific about how that burden showed up in play calling and personnel. The 49ers targeted running backs nearly 30% of the time. And almost all of that went to Christian. We'll break down why that target distribution forced his hand, why the backups didn't hold up in the receiving game, and why the team should consider a veteran pass-catching option this offseason. You saw the stat line. The running back position was targeted nearly 29.4% of the time, more than any team in the league, and almost all of those targets funneled to Christian McCaffrey. That's the crux of the problem. 102 catches for him, and then nobody remotely close. When your top receiver after him is at 57 catches and the next guy is in the mid-50 SE, you've created a single point of failure. The backups in that room just didn't offer the receiving chops you needed, and that's why Brian Robinson Jr. and Jordan Mason showed abysmal yards per route run numbers. Those poor marks aren't just numbers on a page. They explain why McCaffrey couldn't come off the field without the offense blinking. Kyle Shanahan's scheme depends on ambiguity. The defense needs to respect both the run and the pass out of the backfield. When the running back is a credible route threat, linebackers hesitate, zonies opening up, and McCaffrey gets space to operate after contact. But when the available RBS don't run useful routes, or when the perimeter is wounded because of injuries to pieces like Brandon Ayuk and a banged-up George Kittle, defenses can cheat inside and eliminate that dimension. That's what happened. You didn't see McCaffrey fade because he got worse so much as you saw the rest of the offense stop creating room for him. So what does the roster do about it? There are smart internal options. See if young guys like Isaac G or Jordan J can take leaps, but the highest probability play is to add a veteran pass-catching running back who lets Christian McCaffrey breathe and keeps Brock Reeds from turning into crowd control. If you want a name to track, remember Kenneth Gainwell, the sort of player who can legitimately run routes and create mismatches without wrecking the salary structure. Quick mid-roll. If you love this channel and you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe and help us hit 2,000 faithful. We're building community and content for fans who want the real takes. If you can use super thanks or hype to support the channel, it's not a donation. It's fuel for the quest for the next Super Bowl trophy and better production for everyone here. Every bit helps us grow the show and cover moves that matter. Back to roster math. Would you rather the team spend on a proven veteran who immediately restores pass-catching depth out of the backfield? Or would you prefer they roll the dice and draft a high-upside runner? Drop VET or draft in the comments. I want to see what the faithful prefer. Also tell me which free agent RB you'd sign first and why. The best takes will get read in the next video. Finally, remember the larger picture. You're not just talking about a backup who takes a few carries. You're talking about preserving the durability and window of both Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy. Protecting McCaffrey's receiving role protects Brock's clean reads and the offense's spacing. Next up, I'll run through cap flexibility, the team's likely offseason posture, and whether the front office under John Lynch is more likely to go for broke offensively or keep money in. Reserve for defensive upgrades. This offseason comes down to choices, and those choices will define whether this window becomes a wasted opportunity or a real run at a title. The easy headline is money. The San Francisco 49ers have some cap flexibility now that the Brandon Ayuk situation opened room, and that creates a real decision point for the front office. Do you spend aggressively to shore up the offense, or do you allocate resources to shoring up key defensive gaps and hope the draft fills the offensive holes? Either path can work, but the safer route to protect the present is obvious. Add weapons that create spacing so the whole offense breathes. That's what gives Christian McCaffrey the lanes he needs and keeps Brock Purdy from facing crowded reads every play. Look at the decision architecture. General Manager John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan historically collaborate on a balanced roster plan. They'll consider cost-controlled defensive picks and targeted offensive signings. If they want to push now, they can add a veteran pass-catching back or a second reliable tight end, or pay up for a receiver who stretches the field. A name that keeps popping up as a practical high-upside option is Kenneth Gainwell, someone who can run routes, catch reliably, and reduce CMC's single point of failure role without breaking the bank. If money is tight, the alternative is to bet on development hope that Jordan James, Isaac Gerendo, or a draft pick grows into the role. That's higher risk and slower payoff. You also have to think longevity. McCaffrey will be 30 this year. Getting him the right rest, share, and protection increases the odds he stays explosive and available for the next 2 seasons when this team's window is bright. The optics matter too. Invest now and you boost both short-term title odds and long-term fan confidence. Ignore it, and you run the risk of another season where a single superstar carries too much of the load and the roster collapses in key moments. So here's the call to the faithful. Which move would you make if you were in that decision room for 30 seconds? Sign a veteran pass-catching running back, trade for a true field-stretching receiver, or add a reliable second tight end. Type RB, WR, or TA in the comments and explain why the best takes will be featured. And if you haven't yet, smash subscribe and help push us to 2,000 faithful. Hit super thanks or hype to fuel the show. It's not a donation, it's fuel for the quest for the next Super Bowl trophy and better coverage for our community. That wraps up the breakdown. The problem is fixable, and the solution is obvious. Give Christian McCaffrey help that actually stretches the field.